What's going on Facebook Live? We're going to try to change bike tire on my wife's bike that is on her trainer. Killing three birds with one stone. A, fixing the tire. B, doing a video how to change an inner tube. And then C, getting it done for my wife, even though she wanted to be here, but I'm going to record it. So I'm going to say, hey, you can go watch a video and figure out how to do it. So anyway, so I'm going to try it the first way, with fingers only, with no tools. I've got tools for backup. I'll show you what I carry to fix tires. I've got a nice 700C 28 millimeter wide tire. Nothing crazy or fancy, just a press a valve, so it's pretty straightforward. So we're going to get on it. And it is the most difficult part because it is the rear tire. Take it off the old trainer. As you can see, the wonderful digs of the pain cave. You know, this is, I'm not going to lie to you, it's not the super fancy pain cave you're looking for. But it's got everything you need. Including the glove to get the tire off the back rim, because I don't like to get covered in chain grease. I don't think many people do. So my wife's got a Giant, I've got a QR. Quick release is a little bit different in each one of them. This is a quick release. This is not a through axle, so that makes it a little bit easier. So it's just undo it. Bring the chain over. There you go. You got the wheel. Be a little bit careful when you set it down. You don't want to jam it down. You don't want to hit the derailleur on the ground and bend it, because if you do that, you're not getting your bike moving again, even if you get the flat fixed. So, next order of business, make sure it's completely aired out. You know, we've already made sure it's pretty much flat. So I'm going to see if I can do this with just my fingers. So you should be able to. The tire has enough give. Just push over a rim. Just do it all the way around. That way you don't need the tire levers. So if you do have a tire changing kit, now we have to put all this stuff back in here. Joy. We got tire levers, so if you need to get in there and wedge them off, you can. But more often than not, you can just wedge it off with your fingers. It's not that big of a deal. And this tube, I think it's got this bike like 2 years ago, and I don't think we've ever changed it. So I'm not even going to worry about trying to find a leak and patch it. I always carry a complete tube with me whenever I'm riding. Make sure the little nut is off of here, off the stem, so you can get it off. I usually don't put those back on. Probably should. But pull the tube out of here. Now I seat the tire back on the rim on one side, because you don't want to put the tube in the tire first, because you could pinch it. You don't want to pinch it. So I've got it on one side. Find where the valve stem is. But first, make sure, feel around, check out the rim, make sure there's nothing poking. Make sure one of your spokes are not poking through, because that could be a problem. If you're out there riding around, your spoke is actually poking through the rim tape. That could be a problem that you need to get fixed for the wheel. So always feel there. These tires are pretty old and nasty and worn out, but we use it for the trainer. So I'm just feeling here, make sure there's nothing here. I'm pretty sure there's nothing in here, because she's not riding this thing on the road. It just sits on the trainer inside. But always check to make sure, especially if you're out there on the road. I hate to use one of my long stems that I use in my race wheels, but this is all we got. We got to get her back moving, right? So find the stem hole. Quicker than I can. Here we go. So, side where you're hanging over, stem in, and I go ahead and tuck it in most of the wheel. Tuck it in away from the valve stem. So this is the trick. Now, fortunately for me, I've got an air pump, but if you've got CO2 and you've got the little nozzle, you're gonna have to break it open and start it. Remember, if you don't know how to use these on, I'd suggest you figure out how to use it before you're stuck alongside the road and trying to figure it out. Once you tie it in here, once you tie it all the way down, it punctures the top, and you let it out by opening it back up. And if you want to save it, you close it back up. So you can adjust it so you don't lose it all at once, but just be ready, because once that thing punctures and you let it go, you're going to lose all your air in a hurry. So you don't want to do that on the side of the road. But I got an air pump. So I'm not filling this thing up. Just putting enough air in. I'll do this one alongside the road just so it's a little bit filled up, so you don't kink it when you put it back in here. Because if you kink it and pinch it on the tube, on the wheel, you're screwed, and you either got to patch it or get another tube. Personally, I don't like to do more work than I have to, and I don't like to buy more tubes than I have to because they ain't cheap. So notice I'm just going along with my fingers as far as I can. You have to catch the other side, or else it'll just keep popping out as you go along. So notice I'm getting to the point where it's getting a little bit more difficult. So I'm making sure I'm poking up the tube in there. And now I'm just leaning it back. And the beauty about this is it slides right back on. I didn't have to use the levers. I didn't have to do anything complicated. It didn't hurt my fingers. Just use that little bit of pressure, get it back on there. Squeeze that, make sure the tube is not stuck in between the tire and the rim. So I've done that way too many times. It is a pain. That's why I'd like to try to avoid using these levers, because if you get them in there and you pinch that tire in there, you've flatted your tube before you even gotten it in there with the levers, whatever you want to call it. The final check. Turn this bad boy back up. We generally go with 100 psi inside. This blows up on me, it'll be great entertainment. Live Facebook. So I got about 100 psi in there. We've done everything we needed to check. Pretty solid. Put my glove back on. Yes, as you can tell, we don't have much room to work with here in the old pain cave. Gotta do what you gotta do. Slide chain back on. Make sure you're set. We don't want to over torque it. Make sure it is set in there. Put it on. Always make sure it spins before you hop back on. Just notice it was a little torqued up. So if your derailleur, your cassette is a little bit torqued up, and you go push full power on there when you're taking off, you're gonna ram that derailleur right back into your cassette, and it's going to be bad news bears again. So I've done this enough times. I've sat in transition in races and done this enough time. Done it enough times on the side of the road in training on race day. I know how to change a tire, and I'm pretty proficient at it at this point. So for you, if this is your first time, I would definitely every winter go through and change your inner tubes. Do it with plenty of time before you start going outside. Get them in there, make sure they're nice and set. Everything's good to go, and then ride the trainer on them or whatever. Check them out. Just make sure you're not in the middle of a race changing your inner tubes to figure out for the first time. Make sure you've got all the gear that you need. Done videos on that, what you need for flat tire gear. So that's pretty much it. We're gonna put this back on the trainer. We're gonna say, happy wife, happy life. Our trainer is all set. She can ride to her heart's content. It should be Go time for the fluid 2 for her. There you go. As they say, she is all set. Ready to go. So that's it. Changing inner tube. I call that pretty successful. So questions, put them in the comments. We'll see you next time. Happy training. No flats out there.